Yo, what's up guys, it's Talon. Today I'm going to be talking about Jayce mid for you guys today, just going through a gameplay and talking through my thoughts. So initially, when do I pick Jayce mid? I do think mid is his best role overall, and I think it's best to pick into squishy champions. That's the reason that I like playing a mid, is because mid has a lot of squishies. Assassins it's fine into too, but like when I see any type of squishy champ, that's when I'm going to want to play it the most. So initially, I typically try to ward the Raptors, but the Rammus ended up catching me before I was able to do that. Jayce is really good level 1 and really good at 1v1ing people, so that's why I'm okay with going for these early wards. Just because usually, unless there's like 3 people that show up, I'm not going to die or nothing. I'll try to be obviously careful of the jungler if it's a jungler like Rammus or anyone who can stop me. But yeah, so into range matchups, typically, the best way to play the range matchups is to start by shoving the wave level 1 as fast as possible, so that you get level 2, and then if you clear that wave first, you have your Q and your E, and you can combo that for free poke onto them. Now here, I can't do that because the Rammus caught me out early, so Misfortune gets prio, and I end up taking a bad trade early on. So this is actually kind of like how to, you know, play when you do not have a good start to your lane. So what I'm looking for here is a back. So anytime I have a back opportunity, that's what I'm playing for. Until then, I'm just going to be simply just trying to farm. So here I have a back opportunity, and I'm willing to lose like a minion because it's not actually going to lead to much. And if Misfortune doesn't back, I'm going to have a slight item advantage with boots, and I'm just not really going to be down much that's important. Instead, she ends up shoving it, and I think I still lose 1 minion, but that's not as bad as if I had to stay in lane and got stuck there for a long time. So now Misfortune wants to take it back because she has low mana, and if she decides not to back, then I can easily trade onto her like this and win the trade, or at least go even. I think she ignited me, so I do win it because I still got my ignite. And then you saw as well there, guys, I didn't end up doing it successfully, but a really good thing to do as Jayce is to Q onto the minions, use your melee Q, your melee first ability, jump onto the minions and get the splash damage onto the champion. It's a really good way to catch them out and surprise them, and then you go onto them, you do that, then you switch to your range form, and you continue to poke them out from there. So once again, you see this is my second back in lane, and Misfortune has got 0 backs off. This is an especially effective strategy into many mage champions or champs that spam abilities a lot. Misfortune, I don't know, Ziggs, like Orianna, anything like that. And you see she gets stuck in lane, doesn't properly shove her lane, and now I'm able to get that kill and kind of recover the lane just by giving up a little bit of minions to back in order to kind of make it so I have the advantages, right? Like even though I was at a disadvantage, I create the advantage simply by backing, and then, you know, I have the item advantage, I have the health advantage, mana advantage, and Rammus ends up ganking me unsuccessfully there, which is really good as well. So Misfortune is obviously an uncommon pick. I know you guys are like, well, I can't really learn much playing against Misfortune because I'm not going to ever lane against Misfortune again, but in reality, Misfortune plays actually probably better laner than a lot of mages that you'll lane against with this strategy, or just by playing Jayce mid. So not only that, and you see here I jump onto the minions and successfully do what I was talking about earlier, and I'm gonna kill her there because of that, I believe. So Misfortune is actually a stronger laner than most mages you're gonna lane into that have, like, you know, range champions like any of those mages, which is when you're gonna want to play Jayce. So like you're gonna pretty much want to do what I'm doing here. Just when you can, look for those like big burst damage opportunities, poke them down until you get them into execute range, and you gotta play very aggressive as Jayce, which means you got to track jungle well as well. So if you think the jungler is on top side, you got to play towards the bottom side, and vice versa. This allows you to avoid ganks easier like I did there. But yeah, like with how aggressive you play Jayce, that's why warding is very important. That's why level 1 I want to ward Raptors, so I can be aware of the jungler's pathing. Because again, playing a lane dominant champion, especially as a mid laner, you are going to get ganked. I had this issue a lot when I was first learning Jayce, but it is a big issue. And now you see here, I thought I would kill her with that E, but she was at 17 health. Otherwise, I would have gotten a 3rd kill onto her. But you can just see how much burst damage I have onto these squishy champs, jumping onto them whenever they end up overextending or whatever, getting my quick combo off onto them. And I have like a video on Jayce, like how to combo with him, how to play him. Like I have a full guide. So if you're interested in that, I have been like rank 1 Jayce. I played him mid lane a lot. So I feel like it's probably my best champ right now. But I haven't been playing him a ton recently, so a little bit washed on him, but not too much. I feel like I'm still pretty good at him. I think Kale's going to end up dying here, though, unfortunately. Not much we can do about that. It is what it is. Rammus using ult, though, so... And Shen ulted me, which I can't do much about because I had no mana. But maybe he's ended up able to get a kill here. We'll see what we can do. But I think I don't know. Do I make a mistake here? I think I might end up getting caught out. I'm not sure. But just kind of the Yone going in now, and I'm again just jumping on them, dealing the damage that I can. It's really important to be really quick with your switching of like your stances, like your melee form and your range form and all that. But they flash onto me here, so I'm kind of worried. I should have flashed here. If I was able to flash, I think I would have been chilling. But yeah, I flashed too late, so that was the main issue. But we can see I have every kill here. You know, it's really up to me at the moment to kind of carry the game, or at least get us to this early game, because we have Tristana, we have Kayle, we have Sona. Like, these are super late game champions, and this is when I like to pick Jayce. I like to pick Jayce into squishy champions, and I like to pick him when I have really good late game, because I can get through the early game really well and carry the early game. So my goal is just we don't lose the early game too hard, and then my team scales up and carries me later on. For the build, you start off with the boots of Dynamism, or whatever you call them, the armor penetration boots. You go for those, and then you go straight into Duskblade, Youmuu's Ghostblade, or Serpent's Fang, depending on the game. So I'll go, and you're going to see here, again, I'm getting another kill. I'm not really going to talk much about that, but like, we're going for Duskblade most situations, but we're going for Serpent's Fang, obviously, if they have shielding, and then Youmuu's if you need movement speed or want to kite people around, I guess. But honestly, I don't go Youmuu's anymore. I just only go Duskblade or Serpents. And you can see how fast I take towers, too. So that's another big thing about Jayce. If you take towers, like, you take towers by autoing, then use your your range form's second ability, and then you switch to your melee form if you can, and you can get fast auto attacks in your melee form, and you can kill towers super, super fast. But you can even kill towers fast if you're just doing it in your range form as well. Really, whatever works pretty well. So that's another good thing about Jayce, is just how fast you can take towers. It's really all about snowballing the early game. But yeah, so back to the build. After you go for whichever serrated dirk item you choose of those three that I listed, then you'll go for Black Cleaver typically. After Black Cleaver, I'll usually go for either Mortal Reminder or Cyrilda's Grudge. Mortal Reminder, I'll go into, healing champs, and if I don't need the anti-healing, then I'll go Cyrilda's, and then I go for Sterix Twin Guard most situations. The only thing I'll really switch there is I'll go to a Maw instead of a Sterix if they've got like all AP basically. It's a bit more of a bruiser build. I know some people like going for just like a one-shot build, but for me, Jayce struggles in the late game, so I kind of nullify that. So basically, okay, so there's two things about the build which I decide. So my build is good for early snowballing. I don't go for Manamune because Manamune takes too long to scale, and you're squishy with Manamune more so than if you're building like a Black Cleaver and some of these other items. So I prefer a tankier Jayce that is really all about snowballing. You can see there I tried to go for the snipe but didn't get it. So my goal is just snowballing. So that's why I'm going a serrated dirk item so early. I'm going the boots right away. I'm going Black Cleaver, and like it's a really big power spike if you're able to get ahead. But if you're not able to get ahead, it's not as useful. So if you want to play Jayce like a poking champion and you just kind of want to sit back and scale up, Manamune is going to be what you want. But in my opinion, that's not how you should play Jayce. I don't think you should play him as a scaling champion. I think you should play him to snowball the early game. And the other thing about Jayce is he does scale. He just only scales if he gets ahead, which is a weird kind of statement, because obviously if you get to like, you know, really late game and everyone's high items, you still do good damage, but it's going to be a lot less. So basically with Jayce, you need to always be kind of ahead of the curve of gold. So gold is like your main value in the game. That's why we go first strike alongside the damage. First strike giving you that extra gold. I'm taking turrets when I can. I'm valuing if there's a side lane open that has gold in it. I'm going for a lot of early kills and trying to really get really good at laning on Jayce. So I can snowball the game. So basically everything I'm doing is in the respect to get gold, and then use that gold in team fights, because all you do is Jayce's damage. You don't have any utility. You kind of have CC with your third ability on your melee form, but that's not very much. It's basically all damage. So to do damage, you obviously need more gold. So that's really all that I'm thinking about as Jayce, is getting myself gold. Obviously, I can also just become a split pusher, or I can just poke people out even if I don't have a ton of gold, as long as my teammates are doing well. So like if your teammates are doing well, then you kind of turn into a split pusher who just goes to team fights to poke and help your teammates out. But typically that's not what you're going to be doing. You're typically just going to be trying to get as much gold in yourself to carry those games just through your raw damage. Again, which is why I'm really valuing farming and everything on this champ. You see I messed up my flash. That would have been a kill, but I tried to go for it and was unsuccessful, unfortunately. So a lot of this video I've just been talking about Jayce. I'm not going super over the gameplay, but I like talking about this champ. He's super fun, so I thought I might as well and show you guys a bit of gameplay while we're doing that. But it really is about snowballing with this champ. So if you're not able to play early game well, or you don't like aggressive early game laners, I don't really recommend him. But he's just so strong and he's really versatile. I mean, you can play him in most situations. I one-tricked him in mid lane, like, was it last season to Challenger on mid lane, playing like nothing else but Jayce. So he's a very versatile champion, but he does take a while to learn, in my opinion. You have to get really used to the fact that you have, 7 buttons to click basically instead of the normal 4. So there's a lot more to keep track of, and it gets kind of confusing sometimes if you're not used to it. But once you get it down, it feels super smooth and super clean to play. It's super fun. But overall, I mean, now my goal in team fights when I'm so far ahead is just poke people out and don't allow them in. So as poke champions, which again, this is my favorite style of champs to play, is poke champs. The main thing that you want to do is try to get to objectives first if you can. The reason for that is because if people have to come into you, you're able to poke them out and zone them off really easily. So for example, when I'm this ahead in the game, one of my first ability plus third ability combos on my range form will do half health to any squishy champion. So for example, if I'm able to walk in first, I can easily find avenues by using wards and just, zoning them or going through choke points to easily poke them out and get their squishies so low HP that their squishies can't really do anything at all and are pretty useless in the fights. So that's why you want to be at the objective first when you can. And then playing Jayce from behind, because you are inevitably going to go behind in some situations, is really just about poking people at that point. Jayce, unless you're really, really far behind, is always going to do a lot of damage to squishy champions. So you find the enemy AD carry, the enemy enchanter support, the enemy whatever squishy champion, and you just poke them out into fights, and that's about the most use or value that you're going to be able to provide when you are behind. Because when you're behind, it's a lot harder. Playing side lanes as well, that's going to be kind of your bread and butter to get back into the game and get back ahead, playing for those turret bounties and everything like that as Jayce. And you can play him in jungle or top lane as well if you want, and he's very good. I play him in all 3 of those roles, so top, mid, jungle. But for top lane and jungle, the issue is that frontliners are more prevalent in those roles. So you're going to be missing out on that front line if you're not playing a frontliner. And in top lane specifically, the matchups are a lot harder. He has a lot more losing matchups / like even matchups that he gets outscaled in top lane. Whereas in mid lane, you may get outscaled by an Orianna technically, but you can always one-shot an Orianna at every point in the game as long as you're not super uber behind. Same with any scaling mage, you'll always one-shot them. That's always going to happen. Even assassins, you can pretty much one-shot at most points in the game once you get an item or 2. So that's kind of why I think mid lane is just the role for him, like at least the best role. But again, he's good at all 3, so whatever role you like to play him in, definitely fine, as long as you learn the matchups and how it all works. For jungle especially, I think he's really good as a carry champ when you don't have a ton of DPS on your team and all of that type of stuff. But again, here, like, we're just kind of at this point pretty much going to win the game because we got our team through the early game. They're going AP Misfortune, by the way, which is super weird. But we got 2 of them, so I want to force Baron if we can. But my team's kind of going forward, so ideally we end up going on to Baron here, I think. But yeah, we'll see what ends up happening. Also going for QSS this game because of the CC they have. QSS, if you didn't know, it now gives 25% tenacity. And I know we're all missing the tenacity because of the new update removing Merc Tread's tenacity on them. So QSS is a great way to get that tenacity, plus obviously the active ability, avoiding any CC that comes onto you. Very, very useful for sure. And then typically I go for stasis. I don't usually go for QSS. It was just this game with the Rammus and the CC they had, I decided I'd go for it. But yeah, typically going for stasis. TP is something I don't try very often, but in top lane I think it's good. Maybe even in mid lane it could work if you're planning on split pushing or playing side lanes a lot more. So I guess it kind of just depends. But for me, stasis is like the go-to, because you are a pretty squishy champ. Even when you build like I do, you're still not going to be very tanky. But at this point, I do think they're about to surrender, so I was a little busy, so I didn't really create a big video. Or, well, not that my videos are normally that big, but I'm also, like, I've been working a lot on that, writing down all those stats from those games, from my latest video, if you guys saw that. So I've not had a ton of time to create videos with working and streaming and everything, but I just thought I'd go over one of these games with you. And I guess I'm wrong. I guess they don't FF yet. I thought they did. But another important thing to continue to snowball your lead is once you get these advantages, to be farming their jungle like I did there. Not wasting too much time. You can see I'm not worried about helping my team out in top right now. Instead, I'd rather be going and farming the side lane and getting extra gold onto myself. So using your advantage to then push it further and get more gold is pretty important. Even though my teammates are kind of, I don't know if they'll kill or they'll die here, but even though they're kind of doing whatever they're doing there, we're so far ahead that as long as I'm pushing the side lanes out and farming up, it won't be a problem. And so it looks like my team does end up winning that fight because we got them to the late game again. So like I carry the early game, and then if I do have those late game champs, they're going to be able to carry the later parts of the game. Of course, it's not always this easy. Your teammates aren't always going to carry once you give them the resources, but that's the idea, at least many times. But when you get really good on Jayce, you can even carry late games. In my opinion, he's not even a bad late game champion. It just takes time to kind of get good at and understand farming and poking and how to play him from behind / even. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video about Jayce. I'm going to try making more champion specific videos as well. And now you see my stream went to the 1 moment screen, which is very nice. Very good way to end the video. So I'll see you guys later. Hope you enjoyed.